On this episode of the Star Trek Universe podcast, we are talking about Discovery 205, Saints of Imperfection, right after this.
Welcome to the Star Trek Universe podcast. My name is Matthew Carroll.
I'm David C. Robertson.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, man, what's up?
Just been watching some Star Trek. You want to talk about it?
I reckon.
So, drop that summary on us, bro.
All right, the CBS All Access summary. Burnham and the crew navigate a dangerous alien landscape in a race against time to save Tilly's life, but Stamets is not at all prepared for what they find in the process. Section 31 is assigned to help track down Spock, much to Pike's dismay. All right. And that's as good as a transition as any, for me to say, while it might be good TV, Pike knowing Leland is kind of dumb, I think.
Just the fact that, Section 31 is, why do you find that dumb?
I find it dumb because it just so happens that the cat that's hanging around with, Giorgio, and tracking down Spock, just like, new Pike back in the day. I don't know.
Well,
it just seems a little much.
I don't think so, just because of this. It seems like they're all about the same age. Mm-hmm. It just sounds like they all went through Starfleet Academy together. And it seems like maybe this age in Starfleet, kind of everybody knows each other. Because he also knew Giorgio.
Yeah, that didn't help. I guess Starfleet Academy is just like super, super small.
I would think so. And also, if you think about it, like say this is, you think back, I don't know how many, 90 years or whatever to Enterprise. Mm-hmm. They had one ship. And by the end of that show, I think they had like 5 or 6 ships out. And all those people would probably know each other. And then you go forward maybe 50, 60 years to when like Pike and Leland and Giorgio would have been going through the academy. It's very conceivable that Starfleet Academy would have been like, who knows? It is very conceivable that Starfleet Academy would have been like, I don't know, 1,000 people. Let's say it's 1,000 people are going through Starfleet Academy at a single time.
Mm-hmm.
My school that I grew up in had 3,000. And I know like when I talk to someone and they went to Prattville, I talk to them and I'm like, oh, yeah, I remember your brother, or like, I remember this guy knew you, or whatever. Like, it's conceivable that, especially people that were on the command track, which all 3 of these people were, they're all about the same age. It's like someone you graduated with, and he knew Leland, but he only kind of had seen Giorgio once or whatever, I think that's totally fine. I don't think that's stupid.
Okay.
And it seems like in most Star Trek, even in Next Generation, when they meet another ship, Captain Picard generally at least knows the captain. They might not be friends. They might not be old friends. But they'd be like, oh, it's Captain da-da-da. I know that guy.
Yeah. I mean, it's a well-worn trope in Star Trek, and whenever we see Starfleet Academy, it always, or, whatever, it always looks, like a high school or something. It always looks like, like there are like 3 people there.
Right.
And, make no mistake, I've always thought it was dumb.
I hear you. I don't think it's that dumb, especially the earlier you go in Starfleet, the more likely it is that people of the same age would be, like, have knowledge of each other at least. And the fact that they're friends, sure, it can add, like, it's obviously engineered to add a certain emotional element to this episode.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's unique to Star Trek, and I don't think it's an unreasonable thing to add to a show to have like 2 characters have a history.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's unreasonable necessarily. Is just it seemed a bit much
to me. It's convenient, but not far fetched in my mind.
Okay. Well, I also felt like this was like the entire B plot of this episode was a backdoor pilot for a Section 31 show. Oh yeah, no doubt. So, I was kind of looking at it through that lens as well, where I'm just like, this is like that, episode of of any kind of sitcom where like suddenly someone knows someone for several years and they show up and you've never seen this person before, even though the show's been on for like 4 years. or something.
But in this case, we've only known Pike for like 4 episodes. It's not like we would have known if he had a friend.
To be clear, I'm not arguing that Pike wouldn't have a friend.
You're out there, you're working together, you're working with other Starfleet vessels, and you're going to bump into people you went to school with. I don't know.
Right.
It happens in the military all the time. Like even now, in our times, I know people who are in the military who work with the same people. I went to, basic with that guy and now we're in a unit together or whatever. It happens.
Yeah.
And especially since they both end up as some sort of captains. It looks like Leland is the captain of this Section 31 ship.
Sort of.
Right. Georgiou seems like she's a little more in control.
But anyway, that was just
I hear you.
Stray thought, really. I don't know, man.
I hear you. It's convenience. I mean, it is written after all.
Yeah.
And I like what they're setting up though. Whether that little conceit is too much of a stretch or not, I like what they're setting up. They're setting up Leland and Pike as 2 different kinds of captains.
I did like the confrontation between those 2.
I did too, and probably my favorite part of the confrontation was how quickly it ended. Leland apologized, and I think it might have been one of my quotes. But Pike just turns around and is like, "You're forgiven." Like that just seems like a Pike thing to do.
Yeah, I dug that too. It was like they got the old boxing stance for just a second, and then they waxed their handlebar mustaches and shook hands like friends, and I dug it. And oh wait, I was watching a different episode. I was watching Steam Trek. Never mind.
Don't know what that is.
That's not a real thing, as far as I know.
Okay.
There probably is something like that somewhere.
No, yeah, for sure. I like what they've set up between those 2 characters, and I like that they're setting up a connection by leaving Ash Tyler around. So we're definitely going to have more interactions with that ship. You talked about this episode being a backdoor pilot, but I think that this entire season is going to weave in that backdoor pilot, which I'm down for. I don't mind introducing the crew this way. I liked meeting Barry Allen on The Flash.
Oh yeah, like I was rooting hard for that ship from TNG that had Kelsey Grammer as the captain to be a show.
Oh yeah,
just because I love Kelsey Grammer.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, so that's the B plot. Let's get to the A plot here, which a lot happens this episode.
Sure did.
The biggest thing, I mean, full spoiler alert. I don't know if we said that, but spoiler alert. Culber's back.
Yeah, Culber is back.
That's what I thought you were going to say when you were like, you started to say something negative about the episode. I thought you were going to be like, but is it really good they brought Culber back? Cause I did like I like the heartbreaking nature of losing Culber.
I did love the heartbreaking nature of losing him. I guess I'm happy for, the people who adamantly felt like it was, a case of bury your gaze. Like, right. I didn't feel that way. But,
yeah,
it did suck that, like, the very first, like, normal, gay relationship we had on the show was, cut short by murdering one of them.
Right. I get that, and I understand the complaint. I really do. But man,
I get it.
Gays have the right to die too, tragically.
Well, I think, the issue is that they often do.
I know.
I don't know. I'm torn because I'm kind of glad he's back because, I liked the character. I liked, his and Stamets' relationship. Having him back brings about some interesting questions. Is it really him?
Yeah.
Is it just a copy of him? Of course, is it just a copy of everyone when they go through the transporter? That's something you don't hear them talk about too much on Star Trek, by the way. But yeah, I guess in that sense it would be him, and they probably won't even really go into it. It's just, I wasn't really, I thought that was dumb. Like, and not really dumb so much as just like I don't feel like they adequately explained to me what happened. Like, we see like a tear run down a cheek and a kiss, and then like
that was dumb as hell. I really thought that was horrible.
Yeah.
Not to like, I feel like we're really harping on the negatives on this episode, which there's a lot of fun stuff on this episode, but the tear running down the cheek, like that's not a mind meld, you know? Like that he didn't transfer his katra. Like that's a big thing in Star Trek to do something like that, and to have just a tear absorb a soul, I guess. And I guess the point is that at that time, I'm trying to headcanon it right now. At that time, Stamets was so connected to the mycelial network that he was able to absorb the energy that was Culver. But it's dumb. I think it's dumb.
You know, I say it's dumb, but, you know, I sit there and I perfectly accept, you know, freaking Decker and Ilia merging with an old NASA probe and Spock and Kirk going, we just watched the birth of a new life. What?
Yeah.
Like, they didn't even show how they merged. They just, like, kissed or whatever, and then, like, white light ensconced them. Like, so, I don't want to be too down on it just because I've accepted way dumber from Star Trek happily.
Sure. I do think it was a little bit of it was a technobabble solution in maybe the worst way.
It was a technobabble solution if you merge technobabble with mysticism, maybe.
Not on this show. This show, the mycelium network, is just science we don't understand yet. So it's technobabble, but it's technobabble talking about mycelium, which is a science that there seem to be whole cloth making up.
Yeah, well, they're delving into faith too, so they're trying to.
Oh, I wouldn't say that with this episode.
I would.
In what way?
Well, because, like, Kurtzman has talked about, like, how just because they're talking about faith doesn't mean they're necessarily talking about God. Like, he's done interviews talking about this.
Sure.
About how sometimes, like, faith is about hope. Faith is, like, you know, believing that something is like destined to happen, or something that is, or something will work out for the best. Right. So I think they're like I think they are creating their own sort of science-based mysticism within the canon. I think they are. I think that's what they're going for.
I mean, I don't deny that that might be the case. I don't think those words from Kurtzman necessarily mean that.
Maybe not.
To me, a lot of people think that faith, when you're talking about not faith in God, you can have faith in a lot of things. You can have faith in anything. And like, you can have faith that doing the right thing and doing good will lead to good outcomes without God being a part of it. So not even necessarily mysticism. You can just have faith in the optimism of the world of Star Trek. Like, the optimism of if we follow these tenets and do the right thing, it's going to work out for us. And that's, I think, I would say that's what Kurtzman, like, would be getting at with those statements, but like, not necessarily a mysticism. I don't know where the mysticism comes in. Like, in the last episode, I definitely see it. With the Red Angel, they're definitely asking those questions.
Absolutely.
With this episode, the mycelium is just a different kind of science as far as we've seen. And these beings that we're talking to me, it's just a different kind of science so far.
I would argue that about any kind of mysticism we've ever seen on Star Trek, but,
Sure, and I definitely think that's the case with the Red Angel. We're eventually going to find out what is the science behind the Red Angel. Who is it?
I'm not arguing that I dislike any kind of mysticism on Star Trek, because that's some of my favorite stuff on Star Trek. Sure. with Spock and the Katra and all that, like you mentioned earlier, which was openly and actively referred to as mysticism in the TOS movies, Vulcan mysticism. But,
well, but that's a character's point of view. And I'm not saying that isn't.
It is.
I'm not saying that isn't mysticism. I'm saying that, I'm saying this episode, specifically this episode, I don't see much mysticism in it. I think everything is very science explainable, which gets back to, we keep focusing on one statement and arguing it for.
I don't think it's science explainable. I think it's technobabble hand wavy.
Yeah, but I agree. That's you do this whole this whole 3-minute offshoot conversation started with me saying technobabble, and you said no, they didn't use technobabble, they used mysticism, and then we've looped back around to you saying it was technobabble.
That's absolutely not true.
It is.
I said technobabble mixed with mysticism.
All right. Well, I just think that's my point. I don't think there's nothing unexplainable here, at least to the characters.
I don't know. It feels like there's something like he transferred his soul over or something.
Well, see, that's the thing. They don't call it a soul. They call it his energy
they don't.
or, and yes, I agree with you. I agree with you completely that is to us mysticism, but to these characters, to Stamets, who lived his life inside the mycelium network for a while he was, and he thinks of that as a process that is understandable now, or it's at least a product of what the mycelium can do. It's not God to him. It's not some strange force. It's a force that he's worked his whole life to try to understand.
Yeah, and that, what bothers me is that he did try to write it off with a couple of quick lines.
Yeah, I hated it a lot. I'm not defending it.
It's like he just kind of threw it out there oh, well, of course, nothing ever really dies. Energy's transferred and blah, 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 blah. Cool. But you didn't explain it enough. So it's still mysticism because you still didn't explain it at all. Yeah,
but to me, that's no difference than anything that Geordi did in The Next Generation, where he's like, we'll just reverse the polarity.
I agree. And that is a major weak point in most of Next Generation for me.
I agree. I'm totally with you, which is why I said technobabble, and I just argue the point of mysticism. But anyway, let's move on to another topic. In this whole thing, because there's a lot more that going on here. The thing that, the point of technobabble that bothered me most was they let us have this big moment where we thought he was going to die, and he reached through it's like him getting his soul transported there was one thing, and that was already kind of weird. But then when he reaches through and his hand disappears, and you're like, oh, he can't come back. He's not physical. And then they really did a technobabble thing with there's cells in this from our universe, and we can just da-da-da-da. And it's like, okay, none of that seems like science fiction to me, but it all felt like Doctor Who.
Yeah, which I don't feel like that necessarily is a strike against it, but
I do, just because this is a different universe. I feel like they're leaning much more on timey-wimey, just fantasy elements than Star Trek has traditionally.
I feel like Star Trek has done that a fair amount anyway, but the thing that bothered me about it was just from a storytelling standpoint, because if Tilly could be transported there, once we saw Culber, I went, oh, okay, that's how he's gonna come back. So I kind of was way ahead of the episode and felt like everything in between was just a lot of save the cat. You know what I mean?
No, I don't agree, because I think there's that moment when Culber starts brushing the bark off of himself. And starts letting himself die. I bought it. I thought that I thought it was a little dumb that he was so quickly to be, but he was trying to let Stamets live on, let Stamets, move on and get back to life, and save the Discovery.
See, my thought was either they're gonna transport him over the same way Tilly came through, or they're going to have Stamets stay there, since he's already talking about leaving Discovery anyway. Because as soon as I saw that, the portal or whatever, there wasn't a portal. It was just the segmentation. The
biological transporter, or the
wall of
okay, gotcha.
Whatever that he couldn't go through. Right. I went, oh, he's not going to be able to go through that. He's not going to be able to at all. And they're either going to try to claim, either it's going to be super sloppy and they're going to be like, well, I'm just going to have to stay here with you because I can't give you up. And that's how we'll lose Stamets, because, I don't know, a lot of actors who are real big into stage acting, they don't want to stay on these shows. So I'm thinking oh, they've already set up that Stamets might leave. he might actually decide, or, the actor, Anthony Rapp, might actually say, like, oh, I want to go back to Broadway or whatever. All right, well, it's fine. Go sing on Rent. But, they got to find a way to get him off of the show. Or they're going to, like, oh, yeah, we can just transfer him over with a thing. And that's what they wound up doing, of course. But
right.
I don't know.
I mean, obviously, there's an answer. And there was obviously hope while he's still alive. But when he was brushing off the bark, it set up stakes that weren't, and then technobabbled through them. And that's what I don't like. I don't like when you set up stakes and then you technobabble through them in a way that, like, wasn't visible to the audience. I don't know, that we didn't, they basically say, this isn't possible. And then they say, oh, wait, it is. Like, it's like, oh gosh.
They got to try to set up the stakes. I never felt stakes. That was my issue. Like, that was one of my issues. I didn't like the technobabble stuff either.
If it would have made more sense to me if they had left, either like it would have been a nice and a romantic storyline. If you say you do have to leave, Culver there and you have to figure out a way, like you've established communication with these beings now and Culver is over there and they like you create peace between them and maybe he learns to live among the mycelium and they work on a solution to get him home. Like that to me would have been a like nice romantic storyline where like we have this rift between these two lovers that they can't get back. But it felt a little like, let's set up stakes just to have a nice emotional moment. And then those stakes weren't real. Yeah,
it did occur to me that they might do a situation sort of like, Deadpool and Death, where whenever he dies, he gets to be with Death, right. But he always rejuvenates and comes back, so he never gets to be with her. Like, while Stamets is jumping, he can hang out with Culber, and then, but, I didn't think they were really gonna go that way. And if they had gone that way, I would have been annoyed that they didn't do what they did. You know what I mean? Like, that's the catch-22 here is I was gonna be annoyed with everything.
Yeah, well, that's your own hang-ups, man.
No, it's like I can't, like, they painted themselves into a certain kind of episode, and I feel like I wouldn't have been completely satisfied with any of the outcomes.
Interesting. I don't feel that way. I feel like the other thing I just mentioned would have been fine for me. Not that, they don't have to do exactly what I want them to do, but like
fan entitlement.
It just bothers that specifically bothers me. When you set up stakes and then the characters have to pay absolutely no price to make it through those stakes.
Oh, we don't know that they haven't paid a price or they're not going to pay a price.
Well, sure. They could have some sort of cost in the future, but as of now, they made me sit through like a moment where we thought it seemed for sure that Culver was dying and he's like brushing the bark off himself and these beings are going through him and he has decided to sacrifice himself. And then there's those stakes just went away.
Well, I do want to say that I do feel like there were consequences already.
Like?
Poor old Culber didn't even get to decide how he wanted his hair cut.
Yeah, that's true.
That was another thing I thought was real dumb. Like, they just decided on a haircut for him. Like, I would get it. I could get it maybe if he came to like completely
shaved,
bald.
Right? Yeah, I mean, if he was completely bald, it might have made more sense.
Yeah, like his hair is nicely cropped. He doesn't have a beard or anything. It's just like, that's weird. All right.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Any way you do that's kind of weird. I do feel like either just bringing him back to the way he was, which seems to make sense, or bringing him back completely bald would have made some sort of sense. Anyway, we're really picking this episode apart because we both have our individual issues with it. But I did enjoy a lot of the action of this episode. I like they're still introducing this species. What are they called?
The mycelium?
Yeah, the species. Yeah, there's the species that May is from. They said their name a bunch of times now. Oh, Joseph or something like that.
I don't know. It's something.
Okay. Well, I enjoyed finding out more about them, and I think they're going to continue to factor into the plot, I guess. Or we're going to find out that going over there is just too dangerous for them, and that's why we don't have spore drives.
And that would be fine.
Yeah. I thought that's where we were going before, but now that they introduced this whole plot with the spore drive, and maybe it was all just to get Culver back. Maybe now that they know the possibility that they're harming the species, that might be the first conversation we have next episode.
Well, also, I think they kind of set it up to where, like, no matter what May thinks or whatever, they're going to see anything in their realm as, a foreign body, and they're going to try to destroy it.
Yeah. And May they even tried to attack, Tilly, who May brought there, and she had to tell them to stop. No, she's with me.
Yeah, which I don't understand why she didn't just say that to them about Discovery.
Yeah, we don't know how their communication works. If she has access to, like, I have a feeling that the way we're viewing that realm is just an interpretation of what the network appears to be.
Well, that's all fine and good, but that doesn't answer why she could tell them, oh, don't attack Tilly, but she can't say, hey, don't attack Hugh Culber. Hey, don't destroy, like, the whole of the Discovery.
Well, she did stop them from attacking Hugh after they knew it wasn't a monster. Like, they thought Hugh was a monster because Hugh got there and felt under attack. He found a way to protect himself, which was to cover himself in that bark, which also killed and destroyed parts of the network. So,
in Discovery?
And Discovery, I would say it's possible she doesn't have the power to tell them to stop. Like, she's able to stop a few of these myceliums that are hitting Tilly. We don't know how their communication works, which is what I was saying. Like, we don't know that does she have a way of communicating with all of the mycelium that are currently attacking Discovery? We just don't know.
Yeah. Feels like a lot of headcanon.
For sure. But I would say, to me, the way I viewed this whole episode was that this entire environment that we're seeing is just an interpretation of what the entire mycelium network is. So they enter this pocket universe called the mycelium network that connects them to all other universes. So even though and that's why Culver was there when they went there. Like, it's as if, because if you want to think about it a whole different way, it's not like they're going into an alternate reality. I don't know. It seems like this small pocket universe that exists as the mycelium network is like a small hub that connects to all parts of the universe. So to me, I would think that means it is very vast. Like, in actuality, the parts of the network that are over there attacking Discovery seem like they're very far away, from little May, and we don't know if May has any sort of leadership or responsibility. We just don't know anything about their culture, or if she can tell them to stop, or if the mycelium even have a choice but to eat through the hole. I don't know. There's a lot of things we don't know. So yes, it's headcanon, but it's also headcanon to say, like, that she could have stopped them.
Yeah, I wish we had answers.
Well, I think we will. I think they're going to go forward and teach us more about the mycelium network. I don't think that's the last we'll see of May.
You know what? I would give up the answers if we just never saw her again.
You really didn't like this episode, did you?
I don't like May. She's been, an annoyance in several good episodes at this point, or like 3 or 4 good episodes at this point. And the more I've thought about this episode, I thought it was okay at first, but then the more I've thought about it, it was just like,
Yeah. I didn't love this episode, but I'll tell you the parts I did love. I love Pike. Just like
naturally.
His whole captaining has just been super fun to watch.
It is to a point now where I am going to be sad when he leaves.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's going to be a detriment to the show.
I would rather have a spin-off Pike show than a Section 31 show at this point.
Yeah, which I'm not sure the way they're setting up the Section 31 show, I'm not sure I want that Section 31 show anyway, but, right. Or I can at least imagine a different version of Section 31 that would be more interesting to me. Yeah. I mean, I like Ash Tyler a lot. He's all right. The idea of having the Emperor of the Terran Empire as like just a crew member is kind of cool. Like, it's all cool. And Leland, I just don't think we know enough about yet. I think we're going to learn more, and he's definitely going to butt heads with Pike because they're so different, but I think he's going to do some intriguing things that might make him interesting. Yeah. Like, I'm not terribly At this juncture, I'm not terribly interested in the Section 31 that they're building up, but I am open to it, and we'll look at it with an open mind.
Right. Well, if you had told me in season 3 of Buffy that they were going to make a show called Angel that starred Angel, Cordelia, and Wesley, I would have been like, that's the stupidest idea. But it just all depends on execution, you know?
And I don't think you would be wrong until probably season 5.
Oh, I totally disagree with you. Oh man, I disagree. By the end of season 1 of Angel, I love all 3 of those characters.
Oh, that's not the issue. Loving those characters is not the issue.
You don't like the show? I love the show.
I don't want to say I don't like the show, but anyway, I don't want to talk about Angel. We're talking about Star Trek,
right? I'm just pointing. I'm just making a point, and you disagree with it. So yeah.
I'm not necessarily disagreeing.
You're classifying in a very specific way that I disagreed with.
Mm-hmm. I'm partially joking, but yeah, I get you. I know.
Right.
I'm open to the Section 31 show.
Yeah, me too.
I absolutely am.
Me too. But I'm with. I agree. These characters aren't intriguing me to the point that I don't have to have it. I'm not begging for one right now.
I feel like Georgiou is a little bit of Creed Bratton. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to see her every episode of anything.
Yeah. I gotta say, I don't think I care that much about Georgiou as of now. Just like in general.
Yeah, it's not that I don't care about her or don't like her. It's just like a little bit of her goes a long way. Like, and the more we see her, the more it like devalues her. Because she's really cool when she shows up for like an episode every, several episodes and is a badass and does something and says some kind of snarky shit and all the other characters are like, oh damn. But like when she's there every episode, it's like she's eating the apple, and she drops the apple and they do the face to face and I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah. And I think they're going to do that on Discovery. I don't think they're going to use her a lot. And I kind of don't know what they would do with her in a Section 31 show because she is still very evil. So making her I feel like maybe, and that actress is apparently very well known, and a lot of speculation says they're not going to keep her long. So I have a feeling it could be that she comes on to a season 1 of a Section 31 show, and then she either dies or they have to deal with her or whatever, or goes through a redemption arc. I don't know.
I think we're going to see a redemption arc personally.
Yeah.
But that's mostly because they've said that they have plans for her for season 3 of Discovery. They said that the Section 31 show is going to be ongoing. And as far as I can tell, she is the number one reason anyone would watch the Section 31 show. Like, the other people involved so far that we know of aren't names. You know what I mean? So right. I think she would be the star of that Section 31 show for sure. So I don't really foresee her leaving anytime soon at this point. I said the exact opposite a few weeks ago, but now that they've said this ongoing and all that, I'm like, oh no.
Oh, see, no. I think it means it's ongoing. I always assumed that, but I think she's going to be a part of the spinoff. I don't think that means that she's going to be the protagonist of the spinoff.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know about protagonist, but I'm not sure there is a protagonist in a Section 31 series. It's just a show about antagonists.
No, there's going to be a protagonist.
The audience, we are the protagonist.
We all think we are. We're all the heroes of our own story, and we're all wrong.
Yeah, that's true. I think that's very true.
Yep.
We're all extras.
I'm excited to see what goes on with Culver in the future. I'm excited that he's back, I guess. I like the relationship. I liked him as a character. I'm curious to see what they do with his, he's obviously going to have some post-traumatic stress.
Maybe.
Over this whole thing.
If one of the interesting things about this is that this is the last episode that, Berg and Harberts were in charge of before they got shit canned.
Right.
So the show might take a pretty different detour. Like, it might change kind of dramatically. We don't know. Like, the showrunners leave after this episode. Like, this episode is it. So, who knows?
Sure. Yeah, that definitely makes it interesting. But they're still given what they're given. And I think that if he doesn't have some sort of ill effects of living in the mycelium network and being tortured for however many months, that would be weird. So.
Mm-hmm. I would hope they would. Like, I feel like good writing would indicate that, yes, there needs to be some sort of PTSD, but, they might gloss right over that. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe. I doubt it. Any quote? You want to get to quotes? Anything else you want to talk about before quotes?
No, I think I'm done bitching.
All right.
I'm not. I know I'm not, but. All right, let's talk about quotes. I like the quotes. Quotes are good.
The quotes are the things that I liked about the episode. Oops, whoops, I don't have any. No, I'm just kidding.
No, you know what? They actually had some pretty good quotes.
Oh, yeah. What you got?
I did love Pike's little speech. Even if it is horseshit, I liked it. Starfleet is a promise. I give my life for you, give your life for me, and nobody gets left behind. So many people have been left behind over the years.
Well,
just saying.
There's a difference between, trying not to leave someone behind. No one gets left behind. Maybe they die, maybe they whatever, but he's trying. Uh-huh. The promise is not to leave someone behind, I guess. But yeah, that is true.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway.
I liked the innocent don't run. You ran. Or she said the innocent don't run. And then I think Burnham said you ran. And then she said exactly.
Yeah.
I like that.
This felt distinctly, Matthew Perry-esque. Felt very Chandler Bing to me. Mm-hmm. When May says to Tilly, I broke down your biological form and reconstituted it here in my home. And Tilly goes, oh, that old trick.
Yeah, that is very Chandler Bing. You're right. I liked, this, I don't know why I liked this so much in the moment. I just thought it made for a good, tense moment and a very I said this show felt very fantasy to me, but when Tilly says, what do you need me to do? And May says, kill a monster. It just set up a really cool, I don't know, like fantasy storyline for this episode, which I thought was fun.
I can see that.
And then it didn't follow through with that at all. But in the moment, I was like, that's cool. Kill a monster. Go into this fantasy realm of flashy mycelium and kill a monster. I thought that was fun.
Yeah, that was a bit of fun for just a second.
Right.
I did really enjoy, fall in. That soldier for get behind me.
Yeah, I like that too. It established emotional stakes for me when Tilly ran up and said, thanks for coming to get me. And she said, always. Mm-hmm. And I think it was trying a little hard, but I still liked it.
Yeah. So this is going to be kind of maybe a bitchy moment for me. But I did enjoy it. Like, it brought me great joy in the moment. And then, like, subsequently I was like, wait, what? Tyler using his comm badge.
Yeah.
And Pike going, what the hell kind of communicator is that? Like, I just love Pike. Like, that was like the funniest way that he could have said that. And, but then I'm like, so it takes over 100 years or at least 100 years for that to get out to the rest of Starfleet?
Well, we don't know that. I mean, when was the last time we see the flip communicators?
The movies?
Yeah, but that's not 100 years.
I mean, it's 78 years from, basically, from the time that Kirk, quote unquote, dies on the Enterprise B to what would presumably be the 8th season or the end of the 7th season of Next Generation. It is 78 years.
Right. But I'm saying, like, theoretically, they could have had those new comm badges like a week after Kirk dies. So maybe it takes 10 or 15, 20 years to get those communicators out. That's all I'm saying. It's not necessarily that it takes 100 years.
So it takes this is 10 years before Kirk. And then we have 30 years of Kirk?
Yeah, sounds about right. So 40 years. Yeah, maybe. I'm not disagreeing that obviously that technology could get around pretty easily, but I think the fun of it is that the Section 31 has technology. Also, we could have that technology now. Like it's not like we couldn't do comm badges right now. But I think just the fun of they're just that far ahead of the curve. I don't even think that the comm badges being on your shirt and being touching them like that is that much more technologically advanced than holding them in your hand. Like
I don't either.
Especially considering what we have in technology now. I would think that everyone would just be using earpieces, you know, like they do already in the world.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you know, Uhura had a big ass Bluetooth.
That is true. Uhura had a big ass Bluetooth.
Yeah, I hope they explain something. Why they have it, or why it's not being used earlier than it is.
I kind of don't like what they're doing with Section 31 in general, because it doesn't seem like they're a secret.
Yeah.
I mean, like, they're a little bit of a secret, because in the first episode, which apparently there were Section 31 officers on Discovery, guarding a lab of some sort, one of the 300 projects that can go on in Discovery. They were guarding one of them. But like everyone seems to know what they are. That prisoner didn't know, and he wasn't Starfleet. He didn't know. He was like, right. I've never seen a black badge before. Which who knows? Maybe he'd heard of Section 31. He didn't know they had black badges, but it just doesn't seem like they're nearly a secret. It just doesn't seem like it lines up with what goes on in, the other Star Trek series. And again, I want to go back and rewatch some of those old Star Trek Section 31 episodes, because I remember it being like a complete secret, at least in Julian's time.
Well, yeah, in Julian's time, but that, you know, that's what, like 100 years?
Yeah, about 100 years from now.
So, you know, things can be, swept under the table. And besides, this is Discovery. You know, like there's 31 is in the freaking registry.
Right.
Like it was an experimental ship. It was a secretive ship anyway. And, who knows what Lorca had going on before Pike showed up. And Pike doesn't even seem to be like, he doesn't even know about everything. He doesn't know Georgiou is from the Mirror Universe, because that shit's top secret. He doesn't know a ton of stuff that happened last season.
Yeah. Sure. Absolutely.
And in that first episode that they showed up, they do seem very like surprised by how technologically advanced Discovery is. So, you know, I think there's room to just be like, oh, the ship we're on knows all about Section 31, because, you know, they've dealt with them way too much. Right.
It's very possible. I liked I really liked this line from Pike. It just was fun. It's just fun Pike stuff. When one of the helmsmen says, "We have a complication, sir." And, he says, "We won't survive complications, Commander." Just like, it's time is of the essence, and he's taking the time to just be snarky.
Yeah. I like Pike a lot.
Me too. You have any other quotes?
Sort of. I didn't write down the actual quote, but this is just a cool thing. Cornwell, when she mentioned, what was it? Tachyons. They picked up tachyons. Gosh, we
haven't even talked about that. Tachyons.
Yeah. And Pike was like, that could indicate time travel or cloaking devices. And she's like, or all of it. Yeah.
Yeah. But to me, that means time travel, right?
I mean, it's the first thing he said.
Yeah, well, we've also been discussing that's a likely scenario for the Red Angel, that it's a time traveler.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's going back to key moments of what looked like disaster and seems to be helping those people. If helping those people in that church, you know, and putting them on the planet is any indication, it seems like the Red Angel is someone who is going and helping people and then moving them out of the way. Which I'm not, that is a theory I'm just now postulating. But it seems like to me, it seems like someone who's trying to do time travel right, where they're trying to fix wrongs of the past, but not have a huge butterfly effect. So by just removing those people from the timeline and putting them out in space is like the Red Angel's way of stopping an atrocity while not impacting the timeline greatly.
Or maybe the the fact that they're doing that, and they're saving those people have caused massive changes to the timeline.
Maybe. I just don't know why they moved them. That's just a theory. I mean, yeah, absolutely. But I just think moving them out to the middle of nowhere seems like, this seems like a likely reason why you would do that. My last quote is, right as Culver is trying to convince Stamets, to leave him. And he says, "You are committed to creation, to life. There are a million reasons to love you, but that's mine. Don't take that away from me." Loved that. I love the idea of loving someone because of their goodness and their desires to help people and, commitment to life. I just really enjoyed that. That is the reason I love you. Don't take that away from me. I just really, really loved it.
Yeah, that was strong. It was powerful stuff.
Giorgio at one point says, had your life in my hands a dozen times to Burnham. It's like, if I wanted to kill you, I would have killed you by now. I had your life in my hands a dozen times. I don't remember her having her life in her hands a dozen times. Like maybe a couple. There's definitely been moments she could have decided to kill her. But I felt like that was a bit of an overstatement is all I wanted to say.
I mean, I guess if you're as skilled of a killer as she is, I guess she would have had her life in her hands a dozen times just by virtue of standing next to her.
Sure. And you can go there with it, but it just seems a little bit of an overstatement. I agree. Almost every time she's had her life in her hands, Burnham also had Giorgio's life in her hands. They've always had aligned interests, and that's why they haven't killed each other. And it just seemed like a weird, trying to overstate their relationship to me. So anyway, we're gonna move to trivia.
Sure. What did you think of the of Leland's holographic meteor shield or whatever? His meteor cloak.
I thought it was cool.
I laughed. I didn't hate it or anything. I just laughed when I saw it.
Yeah. I didn't laugh. I thought it was kind of neat, I guess.
I don't know why I laughed specifically. It was a weird reaction that I had, and I was hoping maybe you had a reaction that made sense where I could piece that together, because I don't know how I felt about it, I guess. I just instinctually just belly laughed when I saw that. And I was like, I don't even think it's necessarily a stupid thing. It's kind of cool, but I don't know. I don't know. Did I laugh because that's so cool, or did I laugh because I thought it was silly? I'm not sure why I laughed. I was hoping for some insight.
No, I have no insight for you, man. That's
all right.
That's your hang up.
All right, trivia. This is all from Memory Alpha. The episode reveals that Nahan, that's the lady with the weird stuff on her. It looks like she's wearing a retainer.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but it reveals that she is the chief of security for Discovery. I don't know if she's going to go back to the Enterprise when Pike's time there is up, but
right.
She's the third person on the show to hold the position after Landry and Ash Tyler.
Yeah, I think that's funny. The fact that both the captain and the captain's changed, and so has the security officer, just over and over now. So I think that's going to continue. I think we're going to keep getting new captains and new security officers.
I hope we don't keep getting new captains.
Oh, I think we will. I think that.
You think we will?
I think so far it's been a new captain, new season. I think that could continue. Maybe not new captain. It might just be a different command structure every season. I think they're trying to just do something different. At least so far. We'll see if they settle into a rhythm. I know you want Saru.
Yeah. But you think Discovery is just going to be perpetually be The Office season 7?
I mean, kind of. The Office season 7 was a different one every week or something, right?
It was every couple weeks. They had a different.
Weeks, yeah. I think this is. I do think they're going for they're trying to avoid the trope of becoming like every other Star Trek series where it's just the same thing. I think Discovery they're trying to put this crew in the context of a new environment every season. At least that's what they did this season. And I think that is a cool and interesting way to run a show. I don't know if they will, but that's my complete supposition. I don't know, but I think like if maybe next year is Saru, and maybe that's the command they're under, and then maybe the next year they have to, whether it's because someone comes on to take control of the ship like Pike did this season, or because Saru dies, or whatever. For whatever reason, maybe season 4 will be something totally new.
Yeah.
We're going to have 3. I think at least season 3 will be different than this season. Then we'll see if they continue that trend.
Yeah. All right. So, this is chronologically the first episode to feature the, on-screen use of the comm badges.
Yeah.
And also, of note is that they, Burnham refers to Stamets as a widower, so I guess that Culber and Stamets were married.
Okay, cool. We did not have that information before, I guess.
Oh, by the way, that was a weak point for this episode for me, because, and not that it's this episode's fault necessarily, but it's just the way it lined up, and I know that we're going to tackle it probably this coming week, but this episode feels incredibly shoehorned in after we get Saru saying, like, I feel no fear, my ganglia are gone, everything I believe is a lie. And then it's just like this week he didn't say anything. We didn't really have much of anything for him.
Well, I think the fact that we got almost nothing from him kind of makes that okay. In a way, as long as next week, it looks like based on the, next time on, it looks like that's exactly what we're going to get next week.
Yeah. That might be one of the reasons that this episode fell a little flat for me. But
was he even in the episode? I don't even remember him.
Yeah, it's like, why didn't Saru say anything? Well, he wasn't scared anymore, so.
He has nothing to add. It takes a time. When you have a big change in yourself, sometimes it takes a little bit of personal reflection before you're ready to act. At least it should, probably.
It would have been really, I don't know, I think it would have been really funny and cool if while they were like halfway in the mycelial network, and, that the mycelial wall keeps like getting closer to them, and they're like pinned up against the, that one side of the bridge. It would just be cool as like every time the stakes get, higher, Saru's just like, yeah! Like, if he was just like saying like really inappropriate, like thrill-seeking shit.
Well, that's possible. I do think it would have been cool. That's possible. That's sort of that is going one direction. Like, not having fear is one thing, thrill-seeking is another. But it would have been neat if, like, maybe someone had to remind him to move away from the wall or something. Like, everyone's dodging the wall and he's just working and keeps letting it get way too close to him, and someone, like, maybe pulls him back at the right moment or something like that. And he just realizes he's, like, he doesn't have fear anymore, so he's not protecting himself as much as he needs to.
Yeah. So my first instinct is to go comedy way, but that probably could have actually been pretty impactful if like they were like, dude, why are you not? He has to be reminded to take care of himself like he did for Tilly, like he said to Tilly, because he's just sort of not there yet.
Maybe we'll get that. That would be a wonderful parallel, actually, if Tilly is the one. Like, in this scenario, it wouldn't have worked. She wasn't on the ship, or she wasn't on that side of the ship. But if she had to grab him to pull him away, and had to say something about, you have to protect yourself first, Saru. Or, like, that could be really impactful and cool. Yeah. Well, we just wrote we just bounced off each other and wrote a really nice moment for Saru and Tilly.
We did.
All right. Any other trivias?
I got nothing.
Cool, man. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. This is the Star Trek Universe podcast. We'll be back next week, with more Discovery. Peace.
Live long and prosper.
To reach out to us, hit us up at StarTrekUcast.com, at Star Trek UCast on Twitter, Star Trek Universe Podcast on Instagram and Facebook. Just search for us there, or send us a message at StarTrekUcast@gmail.com. If you'd like to hear more from David C. Robertson, check out the DC On Screen podcast or maladjusted.tv. And if you want to hear more from Matthew Carroll, that's me, check out the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast, or go listen to my music at MatthewCarrollmusic.com or anywhere you get music.